Hi, everyone. It's Sarithkin from Montier with the Murder of Dukes interview. I have a co-host tonight, Sir Kelwin from Artemisia, and we are interviewing His Grace Basil from Artemisia, who might be one of the most revered people in Artemisia. Everybody just speaks so highly of you, Your Grace.
How much did they? I'll pay them off. I'll pay them off. I promise.
Anyway, I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I know you've seen some of these before, so you know that we start with your origin story. So if you can tell us how you found the SCA, where, when, and all of that, that would be great.
Okay. My origin story started out in a lab, and this radioactive lizard bit me, and I kind of sprouted wings. And oh, wait a minute, wait. You want the SCA origin story? All right, okay. Well, the first time I encountered the SCA, I was in the military in Great Falls, Montana. And it's just kind of saw them through the trees, and I went over there to see what was going on. And I was kind of busy in my life to follow up very much. And I don't think that they were all that, at that time, all that welcoming to military people, because they come and go. I understand that. But what I really got into the SCA was when I went to school at Montana State in Bozeman. And I was sitting outside of a Renaissance class because I was getting a degree in history. And I was reading a book, and on the cover of the book was this horse who was probably prancing, and there was a knight in armor on it. And this lady came up to me and said, "We do that every weekend." And I thought, "Ooh, wow, you read every weekend? How good for you." I do it every night. And I didn't say that, though. And she says, "We fight in armor." I was like, "Oh, now you have my attention." And that was Lady Margaret from Bozeman. And her and Ian, they both were very crucial in getting me into the SCA. So they talked me into going to a newcomers revel. And from there, I went immediately to Estrella. So Estrella was my first real event.
And when you went down to Estrella for the first time, did you have armor or did you go as a spectator?
No, I didn't fight. Okay. We went down and we just was enjoying being in the SCA and all the other parts of it. But I'll tell you, it's just an indicator of the SCA, our first event. We got there, and the people that were supposed to bring down all of our bedding and everything, their vehicle broke down.
Oh.
And that night, the SCA pulled together, got us a tent, me and my family, all my kids, everybody, right?
Wow.
And yeah, and so they got us a tent, they got us sleeping bags and blankets, they fed us, they got garb for us to wear. It was the most welcoming thing I've ever seen in my life.
What an amazing first event, Estrella. Like I'm sure the fighting was probably overwhelming.
It was pretty amazing, because to me it felt like there was just thousands of warriors there. There wasn't, but that's how it felt, and this kept coming in wave after wave to watch, and it was amazing. They used to do this big parade, a grand parade, where they pick up everybody from different groups, and then they'd all march off to the war. So it looked like there was these immense lines of warriors just heading out to the field.
Very cool. So did your family like it too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've joined me, and all of them participate, and my children participate. Let's see, 2 years ago at Bronio birthday, there was a picture of me and my grandson. So I was holding my grandson as a baby, and so he was born into the SCA. My children don't remember a time, I don't think, without the SCA.
Wow. So when you were watching the fighting, did you get to borrow anyone's armor at Estrella, or when did you first get into armor?
I did not. It was almost a year before I finally was able to get into armor. Sir Mickaroo came up from Salt Lake, came to an event in Silver Keep, which is Bozeman, and he and Sir Thomas from Great Falls got me into armor, the two of them together. And that's when I fought for the very first time. And I knew that I was hooked, line and sinker at that first time. As soon as I put it on and swung a sword for the first time.
Very cool. What year was that?
88. It was December of 88, I think.
And did you get armor right away? Did you have a mentor? No.
In February, I went down to Estrella and bought all my armor down at Estrella, my shield, my helmet, everything, and put everything together right there. I went out into the field with everything duct taped on me, just so I could fight for the first time at a major battle. It was it was pretty hard because nothing fit quite right because it wasn't attached. It wasn't made for me. Um, although that same shield I still fight in now.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's lasted this whole time.
Oh yeah, it's made out of aircraft aluminum. That
Okay.
thing, I ran it over on accident one time with my car and never dented it.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So you got all your armor together at this Estrella. Who taught you how to fight?
At that point, the people that I was hanging out with, Danu, and let's see, who else was there? Danu was the big one that I remember. Louis Policier, that's another one. The two of them, Danu Thorgerson and Louis Policier, were the ones that first were teaching me a little bit of how to fight and get me going. And then when I graduated from college, I moved to Oregon, and unfortunately didn't find anybody. And then moved to Thousand Eyes, and that's when I very quickly met Kelwin.
Woo.
Oh yeah, within a month of moving there, I met Kelwin. She was not from Thousand Eyes, but there was a friendship tournament there, and we invited the people from where were they guys from at that time? I can't remember. Codicil? Yeah, Codicil. And they came to Thousand Eyes. We had a friendship tourney where one person from Thousand Eyes had to link up with somebody from Codicil to fight in the tournament. And nobody knew me because I just got there within a month. And so no one knew what I could do, if I could fight even at all. So poor Kelwin got saddled with me. And the funny turn is that Kelwin and I won the tournament.
Woo. Was it a team tournament? How was that? Like, did you guys?
It was a crazy team tournament. We did do fighting. Kelwin, if I'm wrong, correct me, but we did do some fighting together. And then we had to throw rocks from under a bridge like we were trolls under a table. And then we played. Oh, go ahead.
A three-legged race.
Three-legged race, yep.
Wow.
And then because it was a tie, we had to have a playoff with of medieval croquet. It was poison croquet or something like that.
That sounds like a super fun time, actually.
It was excellent. Loved Kelwin ever since.
Well, cool. So at that time, did you hook up with somebody to be your knight, or did you know that you wanted to go that path?
I did know I wanted to go that path just because I love everything that I've ever read about knights and, being the paragons that everyone looked to and all that stuff. And so I did. I tried to get Sir Sigmund the Stout, Viscount Sir Sigmund the Stout, to take me on. And he wouldn't. He told me I had too much talent and he didn't want to waste it on him. He was always saying things like that, and
Well,
so
he wasn't wrong.
I don't know. And he pushed me on to Thorfinn, who I'm glad, because I loved that relationship. I'm sad that I didn't get to be a squire for very long, just how things worked out. I had a lot more to learn from him, and it was taken away too quickly, I think.
So how long were you squire to Thorfinn?
I was in the SCA for a little under 3 years before I got knighted, so really fast. That's counting the time in Montana and everything. So I was not in his household, but for a little over a year and a half, maybe.
So before you got to Boise, had you been teaching yourself how to fight, or were you still doing that? I know you didn't find anyone in Oregon because Ontario was probably a little backward back then.
But I went to one fighter practice, and no one seemed interested in fighting me because they didn't know me. It was really bizarre. And I know it's not that way. I've ran into many people I love them, a lot of Ontarians, but that was just odd at that time in Portland that it would, that was that way. And I don't know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. They wanted me to fight the unbelted to prove that I could fight the knights and stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of weird, but
that is weird. It's so weird when you get a bad first impression at a place and then you're just like, oh, they're unfriendly, I'm not going to go back. It's sad.
Yeah, but it was okay. I mean, so I kept going. I mean, I kept at it. I had a tree in my backyard that I held on, just trying to remember the things that different people taught me before that. Different nights that would come up to Montana, because there really weren't, there was only Thomas in Great Falls that I can remember. Oh, and Avaloq. Those were the two nights that were in Montana at the time. And so I remember, whatever they taught me, and I worked on it as hard as I could while waiting for whatever I was going to do next in my life.
And were you a sword and shield fighter?
Oh yeah, definitely a sword and shield fighter. I fight with a heater, big heater. You probably remember.
I do remember fighting you. It was fun. I feel lucky that I got to do that. That was 2019 when Kellen got knighted.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was a cool event. Besides your background in history and your love of history, did you come into the SCA and fighting with any kind of martial arts or sports background?
I played some football, high school level football and stuff, but one year of college football, and I did not like that at all. So I didn't play anymore after that. I felt I was too small. When people hit me and drove me to the ground, it just was too much for me at that time. Didn't know a lot about that. But no, I didn't have any martial arts. I didn't get into martial arts until after I had got into the SCA.
Did you do that to improve your fighting, or is just something you're interested in?
It was just something I was interested in. Although they worked hand in hand when I got into it, my martial art teacher would say, "Wow, that's a great stance you have," and then I would go back and do something I was doing in my martial arts. I took Taekwondo. I have a black belt in Taekwondo. And so, yeah, they very much, there's benefits to both.
Cool. So when you were squired to Thorfinn, you guys were still part of Atenville, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. And
yeah, I got my belt as an Aten. I'm an Aten knight.
Okay. I thought so, but I wasn't 100%. So was Thorfinn reigning while you were his squire? Like, were you introduced to that? How was that? How was it being the squire to the king?
It was pretty fabulous because, I mean, first off, it's Thorfinn. I don't know if you know Thorfinn.
I don't know him, but I've heard great things.
Yeah, you've missed out. He's hilarious. He made it fun for me. I remember one time he and I were volunteering. He's king, right? And we're volunteering to clean up, him and me and Sickman the Stout. So we're in the kitchen and we're scrubbing down the kitchen, and it had one of those hoses. And so he's spraying me and Sickman down, and so we're getting pans and throwing water on him, and just a lot of fun. I remember the prestige of standing behind the king, at court, and going into Estrella, as you go around and pick up everybody. There I am right with him, holding his banner and the kingdom banner and stuff, and it was amazing, and it just dazzled me, and it felt that way. I was lucky to be in that household because he was the squire to Duke Brian. And so, I mean, to be in that household was eye-opening, and it gave me some great role models of how I wanted to be when I grew up, in the SCA.
It seems like in Artemisia, all nights lead back to Brian.
Yep.
It's very cool. He had
if you can trace yourself through somebody to Brian, then you are truly an
influence out there.
I like to throw in that everybody leads back to Robert Dispenser, who was Brian's.
Well, there you go. There you go. So was it culturally acceptable at that time for an unbelt to be fighting crown? Were you fighting crowns in Atenville?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was. That was how you learned your skills, right? So it was, matter of fact, it was expected that you would fight in crown and learn. I remember we used to do the squires on one side, knights on the other side, and you got to pick who you want to fight. I love that. I know a lot of people didn't, but I love that because otherwise I might not get a chance to fight Brian again. He's in Salt Lake, and so I know I'm gonna get whooped, but I would rather get whooped and try and fight that fight against Brian, and hope for a miracle, than not get a chance to fight him again, or whoever it was, that was there at that tournament.
I have to be honest, that's one of the things I miss most about not being an unbelt, is getting to pick my first round in crown. I always went for the front of the line. You always knew you were going to get a great fight, right?
Oh yeah.
And I always managed to choose the person who was either one of the people was always a finalist, whoever I chose on my first one. So
I wish you would have
usually they
chose me
won.
more often than Kelvin.
Yeah. So I think it's Thorfinn is asking me to ask you how many beers Thorfinn had at Estrella.
Only one
Only
at a
one.
time. At
One
a time.
at a time. And there's a story there. Would you like to tell us the story?
Yeah, we were at Estrella. He's king. And Sarah, who is queen, told me very adamantly that Thorfinn was only to have one beer because, you know, she didn't want a sloppy king. He didn't want to make him a fool of himself or whatever. And so as squire, it's your duty to follow what the queen says as well, right? Well, Thorfinn gives me all these beers, and so I put them all in my sleeves, and I'm holding them in my sleeves, and I have all these beers held in my sleeve. And so he only had one at that time. I had all the rest of them. So I felt somewhat in good conscience that he only had one. As long as we could add at a time, then we were okay.
Nice. Ah, yeah. Okay. That's funny. I have a funny story about King like that too, but I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to tell it. Yeah. So, were you a natural at attorneys, or was that something that you had to learn how to focus and get good at?
No, I had to learn. I wouldn't say I was a natural fighter. I really put a lot of work into it. I didn't do a lot of pelling. I kind of believe that pels don't fight back. And so I did a lot of fighting, though. It was not uncommon to say I'd gone to 2 practices a week plus going to an event, you know, and then those practices frequently, and in the summertime especially, were down in Loch Solon. So we'd drive from Idaho Falls down to Salt Lake and fight, Alan and myself and Sir Lionel Oliver Grace. And we'd go down there and we'd fight till we could hardly stand, and then someone would drive home. And being as Alan frequently wouldn't have to work that next day, he would drive home and let me sleep, and he and Lionel would stay awake. But that's how you got your time in, and you had to go and find the fights back then. They weren't available everywhere. You know, now I feel like it's that they expect that the knights are going to go find them and fight them. And when I was growing up, that's not the way it was in the SCA. If you wanted to fight a knight, you went and fought them. You had to go find them.
Yeah, like now it's part of our nightly duty to go visit the branches that are further out, which, you know, I don't mind doing that sometimes, but I have a life too, so can't do it all the time. Are you talking, Kelvin, or are you on mute?
I'm just agreeing.
Okay. I'm seeing you.
If I want to talk, I'll make sure you hear me.
Okay. So when I look at your OP entry, it looks like you got your AOA in 91 and then you were knighted in 92. That seems pretty quick, like between AOA and knighting. Did it feel quick to you?
Yeah, I wasn't ready to be a knight. I know a lot of people say that, but if you truly look at how fast I moved through the ranks, I wasn't, and I wasn't quite ready to let go of being Thorfinn's squire. I still feel that I'm Thorfinn's squire today, and I missed out on all the years that, you know, I wish he could have played, because we had a great bond. Still have a great bond. I still communicate with him, but yeah, I thought it was super fast. But, you know, you're not going to turn it down if the king offers you advancement. You don't say, "Oh, wait a minute, no, this is all happening too fast." Someone might, but no, because, you know, I'm afraid that what if they don't offer it to me again, you know?
Or something happens, and yeah.
When they offered me knighthood, this is kind of funny. Hope you don't mind. Is it okay?
No, I would love the story.
So I show up to the event, and Thorfinn says, he sees me wearing the shoes. I always wore these shoes. I thought they were really cool shoes. Thorfinn says, "Those shoes are stupid. Take them off. Put on my boots." It's like, oh, that hurts. And then I went to get my garb. I left my garb back at my house.
Oh no.
And the tournament, it was in Missoula. So Idaho Falls, Missoula. I'm not going back and getting my garb. So I wore Thorfinn's sweatshirt and Alan's sweatpants all day as my garb because that's what was available. And so then after the tournament's over, I lost to Morgan DeAntioch in the semifinals in a really awesome fight that I treasure. That night at court, they call the knights up, and I'm not paying attention. You know, I'm thinking, oh, well, I see that they called him up, and I think, oh, they're going to get Morgan, and that's a good thing. And so my wife and I are talking about that we're going to have a baby. Our son Cameron she's pregnant, and so we're talking, and I didn't even pay attention to who they called up to go look for the knight, right? Otherwise, I might have been a little more nervous because they called up Thorfinn and Brian, and my knight and my grand knight, and they came over and they grabbed me. So I got knighted in sweats up on stage in court with Thorfinn's boots, and that's, I guess, why he wanted me to take off my stupid shoes and to wear his boots, because it couldn't get spurs on my stupid shoes very easily.
Right. So at least you had something to put the spurs on. That's funny. So you didn't have a vigil or anything. It was just like, boom, done.
Oh no, that wasn't usually when I was young and starting to play in Atenveld and Artemisia, you got a vigil basically if they wanted you to think on things. If you maybe needed a little improvement or something, and have listened to what people are saying when they come to you. I mean, I had no vigils, got smacked around, and Trelawn hit me so hard that he almost knocked me off the stage. Luckily, Thorfinn was behind me to push me back up on the stage.
Wow, Trelawn came all the way up to Bose, or did you say Missoula or Bozeman?
Missoula. That was Missoula. In Missoula, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he came up as king and knighted me then, so that was pretty awesome.
That is awesome, completely. I'm trying to picture you in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and then putting the belt
get
on.
Knighted in, how wonderful, yeah.
I kind of feel like one of them should have given you their tunic, but maybe that would have been too much of a heads up.
Are there pictures of it? Do you have any pictures from that? Do you have any pictures?
Yeah, there's one picture. It's from the back, and it's got all the knights and all the royalty up on the stage. So it's kind of cool. I'll have to look for it. It's a black and white. I don't remember who took it anymore. A long time ago.
Probably Robert the Fletcher, who took every picture in the early days.
Could have been.
So after you got knighted, what kind of pressure did you put on yourself, or did you feel? Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I didn't feel a lot of pressure immediately, but eventually I did put pressure on me because of the household that I was in. There was not a lot of squires or knights, definitely, in Tarragon who hadn't at least been viscount, and or potentially king. I mean, that was kind of expected of you, even though Brian never pushed it really, because I remember he had this hat nook at the door where they always said check your ego, so you put your crown on it,
I like that.
but I felt it, and you could ask some of the people from that time also who had not won yet. They could tell you the same. They felt the same pressure, and it wasn't anything that was official. You'll go out and win or die. You'll get out of this house, But I did feel the pressure, and so I trained even harder, and won the principality throne, became a viscount, and then after that, probably Sean is what motivated me the most. And he probably doesn't want me telling this story, but one night Sean had a little bit to drink, and he and I were the last ones up, sitting around a fire, and he turned to me and said, "You're just an average knight." I was like, pardon me, excuse me, and he told me, and he was probably right. He's probably right. At that point, I was probably just an average knight. I never thought of myself that way, because I was a viscount, and all that stuff, and that really motivated me, not to show necessarily Sean that he was wrong. Although yes, I wanted to show Sean that he was wrong. Dear loved friend there too, but it really motivated me because I knew that I felt I was capable of more than being an average knight. And so that even put more pressure on me to get to a place where Sean wouldn't say I was just an average knight.
Well, I'm wondering if he wasn't in his cups, if he would have said that. But
No,
sometimes,
he's a polite guy. He and I have been very good friends for quite a
yeah,
while, and we do tell each other the truth. But I don't think that's the truth you tell somebody, that you're an average knight when you love them. And I don't think he would have said that if he wouldn't have been in his cups. But I'm glad he was, because that really pushed me.
yeah, I was going to say sometimes that's the thing you need to hear. I remember after I came back from having a baby, the guy who knighted me said to me, well, sometimes people get knighted, Misty, and they never get better. And I was like,
Mhm.
and that totally, like, I just, boom, on my way. I'm not that, I wanted to prove him wrong, but I'm just like, wait, that's not me, right? So I get that. I totally get that. So what did you do so that you wouldn't be an average knight?
Well, at that point, I really started seeking people out, and I went to the fire practices far away, as many as I could make, and went up to Montana and fought as much as I could up there to help train people up there. But importantly, to test myself, you know, went down and got more advice from Brian and from Thorfinn, and by then a ton of the knights were down there, and so I went down there and got more advice and fought them constantly. Fought in my barony whenever I could. Alan and I fought a lot. Duke Allen and I fought a lot, and then other people as they came up, there, Baron Edward and Viscount Sickman and Sir Lionel Oliver Grace, and I mean, a lot of the guys like that, and then all my squires that pushed them really super hard, so they would push me hard. And turns out good. Quite a few of them got knighted. So
Yeah, they probably have the same tarragon pressure.
probably, yeah.
So some people from the Outlands are saying you traveled a lot there too to get that.
I did. I love the Outlands. I went out to the Outlands, fought out there quite a bit. I can remember one time I went out as Crown Prince and Sean was King, and they let us fight in there. They're having this big tournament. They let us fight in it. Anytime anyone stopped to pose, they looked like they're posing. The king, I wish I could remember who was king at the time, but he said, "Unleash the Griffins," and Sean and I would run out there and just start pounding on people. It was great. And unfortunately, one time Gio and somebody else said, "Hey, let's pretend, and then we'll jump Sean and Basil when they come out." Yeah, they got us kind of flat-footed and did us good.
Nice.
That's
So
great.
we sort of skipped your prince reign. How was that reign as Prince of Artemisia?
It was super easy.
Yeah.
Went really well. I was deep into. I was like 15th prince, so there was an established way of things being done. There was certain rituals that everyone did. There's a way that regalia was handled, all that kind of stuff like that. And although I was the prince who got to declare that we were splitting from Maidenvelt, so that was fun. I mean, it was a highlight of my prince time, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
Also, when I was prince, I was also Baron of 1,000 Eyes. That was complicated. That made it complicated, although quite a bit of fun, because if you played it that way, I put on the baronial hat and I would talk, and then and the prince says, and I would say things as the prince, and it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. So go ahead, Kellen.
Say, since I've known you all those years, I remember that you did struggle early in the first couple of cornets that you fought with being a little anxious, and I know that you had to work on that, including one of the things that I know you used to do was you chewed gum so that you could keep yourself in track. What else did you do to change your mindset to win that first coronet list?
There was probably two things. One of it was when the one before I won, I finaled with Sean, and I felt like I counted myself fairly well. I got there and fought Sean hard. He won, but when I stepped away, Sagan came up, and Sagan says, "You could have been king today, and I'll bet you'll be the next one if you put your mind to it." And that got me thinking about things and put a little bit of took away some of my concern. Am I ever going to be good enough? You know, Sagan says good enough, got to be good enough, right? And then Sean was really very receptive of me of how I fought in that. Told him that he gave me a good fight. And then I listened to certain music after that. The music in particular for the first crown that I won was I Want It All by Queen, and I Want It Now, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was a very good one. And Sir Conrad, not von Crixen, but von Zuberbuehler was the one who gave me that. He gave me a fighting list, right, that to listen to this music. And that was one of them. And so I just kept playing that one over because I thought that was a perfectly good one. If you're going to win crown, you've got to want it all, right?
Was it a mixtape? Is that like the time of the mixtapes?
Yeah, it was a mixtape.
Awesome. I love it. That's great. Now it's all playlists, but
yeah, now you stream whatever you want to stream, and yeah.
Very cool. So did you said that you fought Sean in the crown before the crown you won?
Yep.
Okay. So
He
how many
was the
times?
final.
Yeah. How many times did you final before you won your first crown?
That was it.
That was it?
Yep.
Wow. So you really took Sagan's words to heart and just went for it.
I did. Yeah. I worked super hard between that crown and the next one. I mean, physical training and everything. I ran all the time. I lifted a lot of weights. I really put a lot of physical effort into it, as well as mental. And, you know, you look. I know this sounds really dumb, but look in the mirror and say, "You're going to be the next king. You're going to be the next king. You can do this. I'm counting on you." You know, and stuff like that. I know it sounds dumb, but especially I've always been. I'm not a very strong believer in myself, and so yeah, I had to make myself a believer in myself.
I was going to ask, like, did you do all of the physical stuff so that you felt prepared mentally, like you had done everything you could?
Yeah, I very much did, because I made a checklist. You know, you do this, and you'll win. You know, and so I really went out and I fought almost every weekend somewhere. You know, taking my major against the people who's going to be in the tournament. You know, go down to Salt Lake and fight. At the time, Ronan, who was, you know, what after that was Rafe, and then Floki. You know, and fight him because I knew that would be someone I'd have to fight in the crown. You know, go over to Boise and fight some of the guys in Boise. You know, I did never not knowing who's going to show up, but Bertrand was one of them at the time that you wanted to fight and make sure you could beat Bertrand. You know.
Who did you fight in the finals in your first win?
It was interestingly my squire,
Oh,
Conrad von Zuberbuehler. So, but you know, that sounds weird. You're like, oh well, he's your squire, you got him beat. Problem is, if anyone knows your tricks, it's your squire who you fight every week, right? And that went through my mind immediately. And he says, don't worry about this guy. You're gonna clobber me. And because I told him, man, I you know everything that I know. I've taught you, you know, all my good tricks. And he says, don't worry, you're gonna clobber me.
And you did.
And I did.
so how was reigning as a king as compared to reigning as Prince of Artemisia?
One of the big differences was that we're new on, right? So we are just a brand new kingdom. I was number 5 in the list, you know, of kings. And so there were a lot of things that were unsettled. Traditions were unsettled because we didn't want all of our principality traditions. We wanted new traditions. We didn't even have a name for our kingdom sword. You know, we just didn't. I mean, so many things were unsettled, you know, and so that was a great time also because my wife and we got to make a lot of the traditions that still exist, you know, in Artemisia to one degree or another. So it was a wonderful time for my first reign to be king, you know, and everyone was excited that we were still excited about being a kingdom. People turned out in huge numbers to all the events. You know, it didn't feel like our kingdom was struggling. It felt like we were growing and getting bigger all the time. And there's so many things. And we had to get offices in place, and we had great support. My household really saw us through, and of course that exclude when you go to the extended household, that's Sean and all of his boys, and of course my guys at that time were Damon, now Duke Damon, and Conrad, now Duke Conrad, and a bunch of guys who went on to get knighted, Baron Ugadai, Baron William, whole lot of barons for a while there were thought what my squires, I guess, thought they had to do. I don't know.
Well, it seems like there is a pretty high service ethic in your household. I think a lot of you, and including you, I think, have been landed barons, right?
Yeah, it was. I was
Yeah.
the third baron of 1,000 Eyes.
So is that an expectation, or is that just something like you lead by example, and then that's sort of the way it is?
I think that I don't say that they should do that, but by leading by example, I think that's a huge way to motivate people, and not only does it go there, but it also goes on to their squires, because if that's the image that they do and that they model, then it goes on to their people.
So I have to take you back to the naming of the sword, because I don't think our sword of state has a name. Does your sword of state have a name now?
Yeah. King's Justice. King's Justice.
King's Justice. I like that. I'm gonna have to find out if our sword of state has a name, because I like that.
Well, it was one of the things that I really liked about Abenbelt, although I can't remember now for the life of me what the name of the sword was. I just remember when they'd bring it out and they would give its lineage. It was won on the field by Duke Brian. What's that?
Isn't it King's Blood or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, King's Blood. It was won on the field by Duke Brian, all these different, it had this whole lineage, and I just thought that was so great. And especially when we're such a young kingdom, we needed to have, some kind of tradition. And I thought that would be a good way to get some traditions going. It's not too offensive if, to name a sword, and people don't like it, they don't continue it. It's okay.
So did you name it? Was that one of the things you did during your reign?
Renee and I did, yeah. My
Very
lady.
cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. What are some of the other traditions that you instituted?
I don't know if you've seen in Artemisia that we give out a golden A. Renee and I did that also in our first reign, because that is one of the awards that is recognized SCA wide, right? Society wide. And there's nothing, here you go, here's your piece of paper, and then you're off. And we wanted it to be a bigger deal in Artemisia because it's the first real recognized award that you can get. It's not just a thank you for playing, here's your AOA. I don't believe that. And I didn't believe it when we worked on that. We met with a bunch of peers and told them of our concern about that. And the between the peers and ourselves, we came up with giving the gold A, and talking about how that it's like the A that's on the chains, and that's what binds you to the kingdom, and I thought it was pretty moving when it happened. And then also along with that, we were the ones that started the whole tradition of giving a dagger to the people getting the AOAs.
That's cool. I love that you guys do the A and that it matches the chain of state. I love your chains of state. They're very pretty. Something we don't have. So it's something I notice when I come visit you guys. So I love that tradition. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
and
my
it's
favorite.
definitely one that is very loved in Artemisia and is still being done to this day. So
I have to say I was amazed that you guys gave everyone a knife. I'm just like, whoa. That gets expensive, but
so usually the household or the friends of the people purchase the dagger for them.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
And it doesn't have to be done. If someone doesn't do it, it's okay too. It's just something that we've done, and different kings have done it, different kings have not. It's okay. And but it's just fun because I would try and make it more of a deal that you're getting your AOA, because it is a moment. It's a large moment in most people's SCA lives. Not everyone's going to go on and be a peer.
Well, yeah, and I think it feels like a bigger deal too, because it's sort of like an acceptance into the family of your kingdom, right?
Right.
I remember that having much more of an impact on me than any of the grant level awards. Like, not that I was jaded or anything, just I was surprised, right? Like, it wasn't anything that I was expecting. And I think that's how it is a lot with AOAs, unless they went too long, right?
Right.
Right. And that usually wasn't a problem in Artemisia because we all knew each other.
Yeah, that's another thing I love about your kingdom, is that you guys are small enough that it feels very much like family, and it's very close knit, which I think is pretty special.
We still fight like family too.
Yeah.
I don't mess with our siblings, I'll tell you.
So when I look at your OP entry, it looks like you reigned back to back.
I did.
Okay. Was that on, I mean, obviously it was on purpose, but did you do the same thing after you stepped down? Did you do all your preparation again? And
I did exactly the same thing, except for I changed my main song.
okay.
For the second crown that I won, my main song was Another One Bites the Dust. I realize it's the same group, it's Queen, but you know.
You turned into the right thing, you just keep it.
That's right. If it's working, go. Yeah. And I kept up. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kellen.
Oh, you finish what you were going to say.
Oh, and I kept up the physical training. I worked really hard. I ran a lot. I played a lot of basketball, but it wasn't just basketball where you shoot the hoop. I would run back and forth on purpose by myself, just running down court, doing a layup, running back down, doing a layup, running back down, doing a layup, you know, and a lot of that was for stamina, you know, and then I would do some real quick sprint drills, because a lot of SCA fighting is not long-term stamina. It's quick, and you hope to get that fight done real fast. So you need to train for that as well.
And Basil was actually the first Duke that was completely Artemisia. So he was the first one to have reigned twice in Artemisia.
So did you beat Sean to being a Duke?
I did.
Did you make any average jokes with him after that?
No, but other people do. We were at Solstice, I don't know, several years ago, and Timmer wanted all the Dukes to take turns holding a sword of stake. And he said, we're going to do by order of precedence. And Sean says, okay. And Timmer says, and that starts with Basil.
Nice.
I try not to rub it in because I love Sean very much.
No, I love him too.
He's been a very good friend of mine, and a very close confidant. And many times you couldn't help but be king back to back. And he was on the beginning of the first reign and the end of the second reign. I mean, so he was only one reign away from doing it instead of me, you know. Right. And if he wouldn't have had the things going on in his life he did at the time, he would have been it instead of me. It's just luck fell my way.
I think it's amazing that you know, his words had such an impact on you, and it was something that you obviously needed to hear to motivate yourself, and you just went for it. I think that's
both times, the one about being an average knight, and the other one about that, what a great fight it was, and that I could be king, you know, and those things really impacted me.
Yeah. I think sometimes we forget as peers that our words can have such an effect on people, especially, you know, a royal peer like yourself. So it's kind of cool to hear it come full circle and hear that somebody's words had that much of an effect on you, and sort of drove you to where you went.
Whenever I go to a vigil, those are what I say: watch your words. Your words carry weight now. You won't believe it, but it does. Because when I got knighted, just that Thursday before the event, I went to practice, and I fought Balin, who's now in Aidenville. And we always used to rib each other. You suck. Come on, bring it on again. Oh, that's weak sauce. You know, all that kind of stuff, you know. And got knighted, came back the next Thursday and was doing the same thing to him. And he was really upset that Sir Basil thought that of him.
Oh.
You know, in 1 week, I mean, you know, wouldn't have expected that. So I always tell people, be careful that your words do matter to other people. Whether you view yourself as a knight or not, everyone else does.
Right. That's really good advice, because you would think that you would still have that same rapport, but for him, you were different now. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's Arius now, right? The same guy? No, it's
No.
not. Okay.
No.
Okay.
He actually
Now,
is no longer
this
in the
Valinor
SCA.
used to be one of the guys that was head of the Lawns Connects down there for a long time
Yeah, Balin.
in Aidenville.
So your second reign, did you institute more traditions? Was there anything different from the first?
No, I don't think that we got a chance to. We did do the Griffin's Eye was an art award that we were trying to get for people who really just put a lot of work and dedication into their research, and we gave that to Floki because he really throws himself into his art. He really just throws himself into it.
He has a passion.
Yeah, so he was the first of the Griffin's Eye. And I know some people thought it was kind of a dumb name, but they loved what the award was for. We like Griffin body parts in our awards.
Well, we have all the lion body parts, so I'm like, oh, the Griffin's Eye. That's totally normal. So have you reigned more than twice? No.
Nope, I'm just a simple Duke.
Well, that's not at all what I was indicating. You have such a really as a presence in Artemisia, and people talk about you with such reverence that I thought, well, maybe he's reigned a whole bunch more that I don't know about. But
No.
Okay.
There was a time where I wanted to, but by then I was having a hard time getting past guys like Timur and Ibrahim and those guys. I would meet them in the semifinals or the finals, and out I went. Or Sean. I mean, Duke Damon. All those guys are. I'm an old dog compared to them. I don't know. Guess I didn't want as much as I thought I did, but.
Well, I went to a crown in Bozeman, I think, and I don't know what 6 years ago maybe, and you did really well in that one. You were like third or.
No, I finaled.
He's finaled, yeah.
Yeah, I finaled with Timur, the dirty dog.
Yeah, so I think you're still doing quite well. But so how was it integrating your family into the SDA? You say they all still play. How was it finding something for your kids to do? Because sometimes that's hard.
Yeah, I think it was really hard, especially for my children when they became teenagers. There's an area there just before you become an adult where you can do everything cool. You can take all the really cool art classes. You can get into armor and fight. You can, all that stuff, right? And so it was difficult, but luckily we had friends in the SCA that they could go and be with. And between my squires and the ladies of the household, we kept good track of them. Couldn't tell you how many times I'd send Damon and Ugadai out to go find Jade, but a lot of times it was difficult. And I don't know if you know my son Cameron, but he has some disabilities, and so it's even more difficult for him to find something that he really likes. He's quiet. He's a wonderful young man, but he has to really try and find something that he likes. He's gotten into art a little bit, but
Yeah.
But they all have been in it. And matter of fact, Jade and Amber, my daughters, have brought their husbands into it. And so they're pretty awesome. Alfric, who is Jade's husband, he's my squire, and he's picking up. He knows a lot. If all this COVID hadn't happened, he'd be in there. He was doing quite well, I think.
Very cool. It seems like a lot of your squires have been long distance. How do you train or bring up your squires when distance is a factor?
I realize at that point that you fight them when you get an opportunity, right? But I think the more important part is teaching them the other things, because they'll find someone else to help them locally, and I can help, and I can say, hey, please have them work on this, right? Like Duke Conrad. I knew that he was getting a lot of help from Sagan and the guys over there, but what I wanted to hopefully impart on him was some of the other things, how to reign, how to be a good gentleman. Anyone, can get knighted. You can push yourself hard and you can get knighted, but it doesn't mean that you are a true gentleman, a true knight. There's, I think sometimes humility is lacking in our order sometimes, and that's okay, because I understand what it takes to get there. So we have a right to be proud of what we've done. But I also understand that in my mind, if we are knights and medieval knights, then what we're there for the people, So I would try and work on skills like that for them to train with, rather than what they should be training on. I mean, it doesn't mean I didn't give them advice, work on your shield work because it's drifting too far out, or whatever, anytime that I could, and back in the early days, I would call when I could. Now it's a lot easier to do email, but I don't really have anyone very far away. I got Thor, I guess he's in the Outlands, so that is pretty far away, but I've not kept up with him, and that's a terrible thing on my part.
Well, it's a hard time right now too. So
Yeah.
I mean, even a couple years before that, he's a great guy, and I wish I would have gotten out there. As I've gotten older, I don't travel as much.
it's harder. You get out of the car and you can't walk. So,
Yeah.
especially after fighting all weekend. So yeah. I also noticed that you're also a Griffin of Artemisia and a Pelican, right?
Yep.
Okay. What is your service geek? What do you do?
Well, right now I'm the Earl Marshal for the Kingdom. I have been a baronial officer forever and a day. I have been Knight Marshal several times. I've been sorry. I've autocrated all kinds of stuff, from Uprising to other different ones. Make a lot of the events in not just the barony, but also I've done ones in the Kingdom, crowns for different people, and Uprising was a big deal for a long time. It was our biggest event, and so when you say that you co-autocrated that, and I co-autocrated like 4 times, that was a lot of times. And I think I'd like to say another part of what I do is my pelicaning. I think my pelican work is that I get out there and try and set an example. If chairs need to be picked up, if I start picking them up, squires jump in real fast and start picking them up. That's the way it should be. You don't let some old fat knight pick up all the chairs.
Well, I have to say that I think you've done a wonderful job leading by example, because every time I go out there, I'm always very impressed at how well-rounded all the chivalry is out there. Especially some of your guys like Conrad. I mean, the guy is like, he's everything, right? Like he's
yeah. He absolutely is. Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to say that all my guys are that way. I'm pretty proud of them. They work pretty hard at it, and they're dedicated to the SCA for the most part. Even though some of them have faded. What's that?
Quite a few are laurels, quite a few are pelicans. So they're definitely well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Conrad's all of them.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, cool. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about? Do you have any cool stories that we should hear?
Oh, okay. This is probably my favorite story. I have 2 favorite stories. This is one of them. So Damon and I were told we had to hold this hill, because if anyone came up the hill and over it, they had been into the back of the Artemisian army. And so Damon and I are standing on this hill, and around the corner up trumps the Landsknechts. And Damon goes absolutely berserk. He's up there at the top of the hill screaming, "This is my hill! Don't you dare come up my hill! Get off my hill!" All this kind of stuff, going crazy. I'm looking at him like, okay, we're going to go crazy. Apparently, Balin leaves. He says, "Okay, go around these guys. I can hear him. He says, go around these guys. Don't worry about it. Just go around them. We can get into the back a different way." And he leaves to go get more reinforcements because he's found the way into the back, right? Whoever he left in charge of the Landsknechts sends up 10 guys after us, right? And Damon is still going berserk. He draws this line in the sand and he says, "Don't you dare cross my line. This is my hill. Get off my hill." And he just starts being, we used to call him the spear god, because he would just pummel people and he was just rocking people all over the place. So I was like, well, I can't let him down. So I'm jumping in and we're keeping people off, and we killed these 10 people, right? And they sent up another run after that. And we killed those 10 people. And they sent run after run of people up after us, and there's feathers flying everywhere because the Landsknechts, right? They have all these feathers on their helmets. Damon, through the whole thing, is screaming about, get off my hill, get off my, I thought of the old man, like, get out of my yard, type thing. And so I was just kind of startled, and it was just magical because we ended up wiping out so many of the Landsknechts. Balin comes back and says, I told you to go around these guys.
What event was that?
That was at Estrella.
That was on Estrella. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've
All
never
right.
heard that story.
What,
You never heard it?
No. I'm
you never heard
shocked.
that one?
No,
What?
I've never heard it.
I've told that story so many times because Damon always wants me to tell it because he's the one that goes crazy, right?
Because he's the hero.
Oh, and it's an awesome story.
It is. It is definitely. I don't remember if I reminded you to bring a sword. Did you bring a sword?
I did not. Nope.
Okay.
I
Cool. Do you do anything special with your swords when you construct them?
no, not really. They're
No?
it's just the old school stuff. It's 36 inches roughly. It goes to my hip is what I my hip bone is where I cut it off. Then I do the good old strapping tape around it. Then I don't use any of the metal clamps. I use strapping tape around that to hold the clamp on. I don't use a thrusting tip. I learned a long time ago from Thorfinn and Brian that anyone can thrust, and win by being a sewing machine. Takes a lot of skill to win by a cut. So I guess that's why I have fought that way.
The
Do
noble
you use a
edge.
plastic or metal
Yep.
basket?
And a metal basket hilt. Yep.
Okay.
That Sickman made for me. It still works. So
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, then let's do the final 10 because we're almost
Okay.
at an hour. What event have you never gone to that you would like to go to?
I would have to say Gulf Wars. Yeah. Everyone raves about it. Bart always makes me want to go, but for school, I'm a principal. For
Oh.
school, it's not a time I can go.
Yeah, that would be tough. If you could fight anyone in the world, who would it be?
Can it be fight them again?
Yeah,
I would love to fight Duke Bryan again.
he's still
to
very
me,
good.
Yeah, well, he's not going to. I'm older than him. Come on now.
Well, I don't know. Everybody's
Oh.
the same age in my head now, right? I don't know. Okay. Have you gone to Penzic? Should I ask what your favorite Penzic story is? Okay.
Okay. So Thorfinn was our first king, and he couldn't get out there in time for the opening ceremonies, and he told us to say that we were going to fight on behalf of the East. And so we get up there, and I say, there were 5 of us, and you're supposed to say how many people your kingdom brings to the field, right? And I said, Artemisia brings 500 people to the field. And everyone starts laughing. And it's like, well, we're going to fight as each one as 500. Well, when I was king and went back, one of the reigns, there were 7 of us. So I said, the Artemisian 700, we're going to be out there. And there were people looking all over the place to kill the Artemisian 700. And they were I was the last one left alive. I'm in the trees and I'm trying to fend everybody off. Sorry, I'll be quick. And down the trail comes Duke Bryan and his household from the east at that time because he's moved, and he saved me. So the Artemisian 700 were never defeated completely on the field.
Nice.
Is that where the one Artemisian is equal to 100 fighters came from?
Yep.
Very cool.
That was
Never heard that story either.
That was Gareth and I. I don't tell a lot of my stories. If people ask, I do.
Well, I'm liking that you're sharing here, so thank you.
Yep.
Who are your favorite people to watch fight?
For different reasons, Sean is definitely one. His tactical work, and I love the fluidity of Conrad von Krickson. Not that I don't like watching other people fight. Timmer's a joy to watch. He makes me laugh. He's a hoot. But if I had to say, what 2 people watching 2 people fight, they would be the 2.
Yeah, good choices. All right. Do you have a hero or a mentor in the SCA? And if so, who is it?
Thorfinn and Brian. for different reasons. Brian, I always wanted to be like Brian when I grew up in some ways, Brian once told me, and I think he was kidding, but I took it to heart, that a gentleman wears gloves. And so I always wear gloves, just because I wanted to be like him. And I want to be a little bit goofy like Thorfinn. I remember one night he was singing a song, and it was called Killing Newbies. And it was to Feeling Groovy, but it was Killing Newbies.
I love it when people come up with filks like that. That's awesome. Yeah. If you had to recommend one event in Artemisia for someone out of kingdom to go to, which event would it be?
Melee Madness. Love fighting in front of that castle front. You feel like you're transported in medieval times, and you get to fight up the ramps. And if you're only paying attention to the ramps and the trees and not anything else, you feel like you're in a medieval castle.
And there's a 90-degree staircase too, which is really cool.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great reasons that one is, but it's my favorite.
Cool. I'm going to put it on the list. What book do you think everyone on the path to knighthood should read?
The White Company. The reason why is because I think there's so many things in there about Sir Nigel that is incredibly knightly. The one I love the best is when he puts on an eye patch when he goes to France until he does some great deed. And he goes to a tournament and they cancel that he's fighting all these different guys, defeated a few of them, but way at the tournament, war's declared, so he's got to go out now and be part of the White Company, right? And they save a French lord in a tower from all the peasants, and they fight the Spanish vanguard, and they go into the Spanish camp, and they steal a guy out that they think's the king of Spain. They were wrong, it's his brother, so they only got some dumb duke instead of getting the king, right? But none of the things were good enough, so he never took his patch off. Then he found out that one of the guys that he unhorsed at that tournament when he first got there was the French champion, so he could take his eye patch off.
And didn't you so you did the same thing though. You actually wore your eye patch for a while for that reason.
I did, yeah.
So how did you earn taking it off?
The knights told me I was embarrassing them, that I need to take it off. I remember
that might be my favorite story so far. All right, if you could change one thing about the SCA, what would it be?
I would like to be able to go back a few years where things weren't quite so serious and people didn't have the issues that sometimes they have now legally. And there was a time when it felt like a fairy tale to me. Not that it doesn't now. When I go see my friends, it is magical, but every event felt like a fairy tale back then.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite in-kingdom tradition? Maybe we already talked about it.
Would I be too vain to say that it was the A's? I love the A's.
I think you have a great idea and it implements and becomes a tradition, you own it.
Yeah. And Her Grace Renee and I got to be a part of it, so that made it even better. But I love that, and I love that everywhere you go, Artemisians are wearing those A's.
Yeah, very cool. Last question. What do you think is the most important trait to becoming a successful SCA fighter?
To be diligent in your arts, to pursue it constantly. Even if you can't get out and fight with somebody, like I told you, all that practice that I did to make myself physically ready for it. There was nobody else there. It was just me, running and playing basketball and lifting weights and all that stuff. But you still have to be diligent in your arts. If you're going to be a great fighter, you need to be diligent. And then after that, go out and test yourself.
Very cool. And get heckled by Sean.
Yep, because you're going to get
it. That's right.
Well, thank you so much.
It will be for a good purpose. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Your Grace. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for your stories. It was very fun to laugh with you. Thank you, Cohen, for co-hosting.
Sure.
All
Anytime
right.
I can harass Basil is a good day.
And I miss you too.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Wednesday, my sister and I are going to be talking to Duke Dak of Antir, who is a legend in Antir, and should be fairly interesting, I think. So tune in for that. Thanks again, Your Grace.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.